Hey you guys, how is everyone doing today? It's a new day, a new Sunday, or whatever day that you're watching this. Thank you so much for being here. This is another episode of Unleashed Alchemy. So I woke up this morning and it was on me to do a follow-up video to the video that I did yesterday. I titled it Spiritual Savagery, How to Handle Communications with People when you start to feel as though they are judging you for your spiritual practice and how you view spirituality, which is completely different perhaps from the way that you grew up, okay, viewing spirituality through the lens actually of religious programming, which is how I grew up. All right, I'm going to talk about this more in another video, but I want to say I grew up in a Christian cult. So when you hear me talk about religious programming, the examples that I use are going to always be from a Christian religion, which actually, come to think about it, there were so many different names for it, but the base it was Christian. Okay, so and it's not that I'm picking on that religion. Actually, I'm not picking on any religion. If you want to be part of a religion, that's your business. But when I use examples about religion, it's always going to be from using a Christian example. All right, I'm just putting that out there. So in the video, I focused on us avoiding not getting ourselves caught up in a debate loop. And I talked about how easy that can be, because most of the time when you're getting pushback from people, it's people that you're closest to. It's your family, all right? And especially, like I said, if you grew up like me and your entire household, it seemed like if we didn't grow up with pets, but if we did grow up with pets, the pet would have been a Christian too. All right. That's how ingrained it was. All right. So if you grew up like me, that was your base. All right. And so now if you're talking differently now and your consciousness has been elevated and you're going through a spiritual awakening, which, by the way, you go through more than one throughout your lifetime, side note, all right? But you're having this spiritual elevation, your consciousness is being open, your pineal gland is being open, you're getting messages, beautiful messages and downloads that are showing you your soul-aligned life. You're reconnecting with your spiritual gifts. You're reconnecting with your true calling. You're reconnecting with your true essence. You're reconnecting with your spiritual science that is encoded in your DNA. You're having all of these reconnections. You're reconnecting with your intuition. You feel your intuition getting stronger, and every single day you're becoming more and more confident in it. Your conversation changes. You don't view things the same way. So, for example, because I grew up in a Christian household, like I said in the last video, there were three things: God, Jesus, the Bible. That was it. You didn't question. Nothing got in, nothing got out. All right? Rigid, extremely rigid. Anything outside of that was viewed as evil, along with a bunch of other words. All right? If you question, like I said, if you questioned, you weren't supposed to do that, because that meant you were evil as well. All right? So when your consciousness level has taken you beyond that, quite frankly, you talk different. You speak differently. All right? And what can happen is that the people around you are like, okay, wait a minute. What's happening here? Is she okay? All right, is she lost? We got to reel her back in. All right, you may be experiencing that right now. And what I want to tell you, like I said in the first video, the last video, stand firm in your spirituality. You know the messages that you've been getting. You know the downloads that you've been getting. You know the visions that you've been getting. You know how liberated you feel. Your calling, like I said, is coming online. Your spiritual gifts, you're going back to your spiritual gifts. It feels like you returning home. Do not let those conversations and those people's views cause you to water that down. Now, if you're in a conversation, at the end of the conversation, I want you to pay attention to how you feel. Because paying attention to how you feel will determine how your energy is after, how your energy is after that conversation. Then, after you ask yourself, okay, how do I feel? What is my energy like? Okay, what are the thoughts that are going through my head right now? And what you may find is that your ego is now firing off all these questions and comments. You look crazy. Are you doing the right thing? Are you on the right path? What are you doing? Oh my God. You'll find that you may have all of those thoughts just firing off. Don't run from those. I want you to examine those. When you are examining those, when you are observing those, you have to ask, okay, was I having all of these firing off thoughts, these rampant, almost, what's the word that I'm looking for? Frantic. These frantic thoughts firing off before I had that conversation? Or are they firing off because I had that conversation? If you had that if those thoughts were firing off before you have the conversation, still observe them. Ask yourself, okay, where are they coming from? Is this coming from my religious programming that I'm not to question, that I'm not supposed to question? What I have been taught, what I have been programmed to believe to be the truth and the only truth? Okay? Just examine it. Now, the second thing is, if you examine it, those frantic thoughts, those frantic questions, and you realize, I was very confident in what I was receiving and what I was stepping into. And then I have this conversation. Now, all of a sudden, I'm getting these frantic thoughts. Those thoughts, that energy is not yours. It is not yours. So do your energy cleanse. Get back into your spiritual confidence. Get back into your spiritual savagery. All right? And reclaim your connection. Reclaim your confidence. Reclaim your courage. Reclaim your spiritual warrior status. All right? Reclaim your God status. Reclaim your goddess status. Reclaim that. Because that energy is not yours. One last thing. Well, actually, I have two more things. So, people will say, and I'm saying that because I've experienced that. Oh, well, we just, we're concerned and we're sharing our concerns. Well, you're sharing a concern because the way that I'm talking is now making you feel uncomfortable. The way that I'm talking is not what they're used to. All right? And I'm gonna say this. I wasn't going to talk about this in this video. Perhaps I'll do. No, I know I'll have to do a follow-up. But some of you all that are watching this, a part of your calling is to be the one to break out of any type of programming that has been a part of your lineage. And in this case, I'm not necessarily talking, it could be religion, but it could be any type of programming. All right? It could be any type of familial trauma, universal familial trauma. You could be the one that breaks out of that, of what people were used to in your family. So yes, that is a big responsibility, but trust me when I tell you, what you've come here with, what's in your heart, what's in your spiritual bag, is more than enough to fulfill that assignment. Period. I don't know who that was for, but all right. So you could be the one, let's go back to, I'm talking about religion in this case, but you could be the one that just breaks out of that programming. So of course people are going to look at you like, oh my God, is she lost? We have to reel her back in with love. Well, reel back into what? Into programming? No, thank you. All right. So stand firm, stand true in your spiritual elevation. All right. Again, don't run from the questions that will be coming up in your mind. All right. You know, your ego, it can only function by what it knows, what's in the past, and what it can see. All right, through our physical eyes. But as a spiritual being, you know that there is so much more. All right. Also, what I want to say too before I end this video is that we cannot look at the people that may be worried, or they may be looking at us like we sound weird. This may sound like a contradiction, what I'm going to say, but just listen. We cannot view this thing as an us, as spiritual people, as spiritual warriors versus them. All right? Because even people who are still identifying with a religion, religion, how do I say this? Those people are not bad people to be a part of a religion, to identify with a religion. All right? If they have good hearts, if they have a purpose to be good people, all right, but they're looking through spirituality in a religious lens, it doesn't make them wrong. All right? We just cannot view, we have to take on that stance. It doesn't make anybody wrong here. All right? Nobody's wrong, nobody's right. At the end of the day, I always say this. Whether you choose to identify with a religion or not, whether you choose to read the Bible or not, whether you choose to believe in a Jesus or believe in a God or not, every person, there's an underlying goal here. And I believe the underlying goal is to have a more fulfilled life. Have that connection, because all of us have our soul and have our spirit. And our ultimate goal, a lot of times, many times we cannot articulate it, but most of the time we want that part of us to be fulfilled. Period. You can have a whole bunch of physical things. You can have a whole bunch of money. But if that part of us is not fulfilled, then we are not living the soul-aligned life that we came here to experience. It is our inheritance to experience that in all of its fullness. That's what we all want. All right? So that's why we cannot look at at this as, oh, I'm a spiritual person, but you're a religious person. We have to get out of that. All right. And the interesting thing about that is that the people that are looking at you as, oh, now, you're not talking about God anymore. You're not talking about Jesus anymore. You're not talking about the Bible anymore. They're viewing you as lost person, not realizing that even that is coming from a programmed religious lens. All right? But I still say we cannot view this thing as an us versus them. All right? So I didn't have any notes, and I know that made sense. All right? If you have any questions, please leave them for me in the comments. If you haven't watched the video, the previous video before this one, go back and watch that one. It's called Spiritual Savagery: How to Deal with Challenging Conversations with People Who Are Questioning Your Spiritual Beliefs, your spiritual practices, your spiritual knowing, your spiritual life. All right? So, thank you once again for being here. And until next time, cheers.